Hello everyone and welcome back to Animation Pilgrimage, the show where Tennille and I take a look at every single theatrically released animated film in chronological order. I'm Sean.
I'm Tennille.
And today we are back in the US of A with Paramount Pictures giving us an animated film.
Mm-hmm.
They have picked up the licensing for Charlie Brown.
Yep. So we have another Charlie Brown film. This time it is Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown. And it's a camp movie.
Dawn of the Camp Movie, TM. At least in animated form. I don't know if we've gotten live action camp movies.
This has been done before in like TV and such, because like already there are so many tropes here that I recognize from
camp movies.
Every single other camp movie I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, you got the bullies, you got children endangerment.
The weirdly no supervision, unlike if you've ever actually been to camp, where you're pretty much monitored and supervised 24/7.
Mm-hmm.
That is one thing about these camp movies I always like to point out, is that, like, it's kind of like high school movies, where, like, how American high schools appear in movies in Hollywood is so completely different and alien than how it is in real life.
Because, like, in real life, you don't get to control when you go, where you go, how long you go. In movies, it feels like kids just get to do whatever they want for the whole school day. They can just wander around and chat with each other. Sure, they have to go to classes, but, like, classes are, like, 5 minutes here or there.
Yeah, classes are, like, a nebulous concept that, like, who cares?
No, that's not the case. And that's the same as this. It's like, there are no adults. But that's usual for Charlie Brown.
Well, but usually they're there. They just don't understand them. They're like, womp, womp, womp. But, like,
this time, there are no adults.
No adults
There is a bus driver, and then they get to camp, and it seems to be run by children.
Yeah. Well, and another thing about this camp, too, is that, like, you know, I've been to summer camp many a time. You are only ever interacting with kids your own age.
Mm-hmm.
There is never, like, in this movie, there's these bully characters who are, like,
very clearly
3
older.
to 5 years older than the Charlie Brown crew, and they're like, we've been the best kids at camp for, like, 5 years running. And, like, the Charlie Brown kids are all, like, 8.
And then, like, the siblings are also there, so Sally's there, and she's younger. Isn't Linus also younger?
Yeah. Maybe?
I don't actually know.
Sally, for sure, is.
Yes.
Because she's Charlie Brown's little sister.
Mm-hmm. But Linus is Lucy's little brother, right?
Yeah.
So, like, they're younger kids just hanging out in this camp. Maybe it's like a 2-year cabin scenario, whatever. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't make sense. It's there so that, you know, we can have conflict with older bully kids.
Speaking of which, let's go ahead and get into the plot synopsis.
Mm-hmm.
The Charlie Brown crew goes to camp.
They start off on a bus. I think they're camping in, like, Arizona or something, because there's, like, nothing but desert all around.
I wouldn't say Arizona. It feels like it's somewhere out in the west.
Mm-hmm.
But Arizona is more desert than this.
It's more flat, and, like,
I think
this had more
it's more of
mountainy.
like a Colorado or Nevada,
Yeah.
like southern Nevada style zone is what it feels like. Or Utah. Actually, Utah seems really fitting. So that's where they're somewhere out there.
Middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
These kids are all in tents.
Yeah, they're like tent cabins. It's a weird amalgamation. But,
and Snoopy, of course, also goes to camp.
With Woodstock.
He follows behind on a motorcycle, and Charlie Brown gets left behind at the gas station when they pull over for, like, a bus stop, so Charlie Brown has to ride with Snoopy to camp, and good grief. Charlie Brown's just off to a bad start.
Well, of course.
And he wants to learn at camp how to be more assertive and how to be a leader. So that's, like, his story arc.
Good luck, Charlie Brown. Race for your life. Speaking of which, there's a bunch of competitions at this camp, and the older bully kids cheat every single time.
Not that they would need to, because they're older kids.
Yeah, they are
like,
winning already, and then they cheat just to be over the top. Like
Right.
tug of war, they tie themselves to trees so they can't lose. And the bag race, they just cut holes in the bottom so they run.
Yeah.
It's like, why? You're already winning.
You're already taller, bigger, stronger, older.
Harder, better, faster, stronger.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, why? Why'd you do this?
Because we have to make sure they're super evil. They're not just better than them.
They're
just
over the top.
evil, yeah.
And the biggest event is the worst idea I've ever seen in a camp ever. A river race.
That lasts multiple days.
Multiple day river race down a river. No adult supervision. Go, kids. Make your own raft.
Make your own, yeah. You have to make your own raft. And so, like, the older kids, their parents just bought them, like, a speedboat.
Essentially. And, like...
And, like, the other kids are pulling together, like, sticks and twigs, and... Or they've got, like... They've built a raft and then put, like, balloons underneath.
Yeah, it's really dumb. And this is actually the majority of the movie, is them racing down the river.
Uh-huh.
And then the kids, like, there's a storm, and they get marooned, and then there's a snowstorm, and the boys are forced to sleep in the snow, and, like...
Oh, and
it's just
don't
like...
forget, we keep talking about the boys, but there is the girls subplot as well, which... While the racing aspect might be the major focus of the film, the girls' story is easily the best.
That's because the girl cabin decides they're going to hold a democracy. And on every single decision, they're gonna vote. Every single time something comes up. Do we take the left turn or the right turn? Everybody pull out your hidden ballots and mark it off. And then they tally them up, and more often than not, it's a joke of there's no decision made because it's almost always split 50-50 because there's 4 girls. And so it never works. And then it does work sometimes. And it's just... It's a funny joke on how democracy is a messy garbage system that only works for those that are in control already.
Yes, because there's specifically a point where everybody's all, like, spread out and chaotic, and, like, Woodstock is missing, and they're looking for him, and they're trying to, like, regroup, and they find this old cabin out in the woods, and it's snowing outside, and the girls get there, and they all decide, like...
They're gonna hold a vote to see if the girls will have the cabin at night or the boys will have the cabin. But only the girls get to vote because
only they're part of the democracy.
Yeah.
And the boys are like, that's not fair. And they're like, shut up, you're not part of the democracy.
And it's like, oh,
this is biting commentary. I love it.
And it still holds true today. Wow.
And so, of course, all the girls vote for the girls to be inside the cabin and the boys to be outside. And they're just like, man, this sucks. They go outside. Oh, it's so good.
And I gotta say that as this thing is going on, Neil and I had one recurring thought as it kept going, because, like, somebody would die, or someone would wreck or crash, and then, like, they're stuck out in the woods, and
then they all died. A lawsuit was filed against the camp for the deaths of 11 children, 1 dog, 1 cat, and 1 bird.
Yep. And that just kept going. We kept saying it because things kept happening. It's like,
it kept being true.
All the kids died or are lost, and there's a lawsuit filed against the camp because these children are lost out in the middle of nowhere. It just keeps going. It's like the child endangerment is ridiculous in this movie. And I mean that's part of...
There's like so many times where it's like, ooh, the river forks this way or that way. One way is the correct way you're supposed to go, but there's no adult supervision, so all there is a sign. And then the other way is a
blasting zone.
Blasting zone up ahead. And so it's like... So, you know, of course you have your bully kids who are in the lead for a good chunk of the movie, who are, like, taking the signs and turning them the other way, or destroying them, or something like that. And yeah, so it's just child endangerment, the movie.
And so we get to the end of the race, And I gotta say, they've been stuck out in the woods for like multiple days, not even going down the river.
Mm-hmm.
And they get to another camp? I don't really understand this, but there's all the other campers still there, waiting, anticipating the arrival. And I'm like, how many days have you guys been here? These kids have been stuck out in the woods for multiple days.
Uh-huh.
They should have gotten here days ago. How has no search parties gone out?
Apparently this race just takes days.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if you come back, good job, Boy Scouts, you done it. You get the badge.
Speaking of which, Woodstock the bird wins the race.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, most important part.
Yeah. There's like the emotional beat, and it's gotta be with Snoopy, because that's really the only character the kids care about. You like the
Woodstock
kids watching
gets
this
lost.
movie. Woodstock gets lost. It's like this whole emotional, like...
And then Snoopy goes searching for him.
Yeah.
And then Charlie Brown goes searching for Snoopy. And then the girls help them search for Snoopy. And, like, that goes on for a good portion.
We're laughing talking about this movie, but it really wasn't like that good. It's a pretty standard Peanuts film. I did enjoy it more than the other two
That's honestly
Peanuts
what I
films.
said here. A funny Charlie Brown movie? Say it ain't so.
I will say, I think this one's like funnier, and I like the biting commentary on democracy and all that. But there's not as much like substance here as in the other two. But like, I don't know how many people are really going to Charlie Brown movies for thematic substance, you know?
I think the die-hard Charlie Brown fans are actually in it for that.
Okay.
From what I can tell from the one die-hard Charlie Brown fan I know, they love the commentary.
Yeah, of the Peanuts?
Oh, like Peanuts commentary and how depressing it is.
Well, good. I'm glad it's appreciated for what it is then. Because so often... You know, you hear about,
people like, haha, I love the Peanuts. They're so cute.
Well...
Or things like that.
Not necessarily that, but there is kind of, like, this threshold of fandom where, like, you see this in the, like, Star Wars fandom a lot. Where, like, the fans of the property are so entrenched in, like, the deep lore and, like... trivia and stuff like that they've lost sight of the themes that the story is going for. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and this is not to call out like any Star Wars fans in particular. I'm sure there's plenty of them that like understand it. You know, it's just a lot of times you can get like so caught up in the who's and the what's and the characters and all that you forget that the story is actually trying to tell you something about real life or whatever.
Nazis are bad.
Yeah, that's Star Wars.
That's what Star Wars is about. And people are like, wait.
What?
Yeah, no, that's the point. That's the point. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah.
If you take 2 seconds. Anyways, Peppermint Patty is, once again, the best character in the movie. Easily, hands down.
Yeah.
She actually gets her sidekick this time.
Marcy.
Marcy finally appears in a movie, and it's great. And they work well off of each other. Mm-hmm. Good stuff. I love it. I would definitely say this movie is worth a watch.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Especially if you like Peanuts films. But also... maybe not as much if you like Peanuts films. I don't know. But I liked this one.
It's a more lighthearted Peanuts film than the previous Peanuts films.
Yeah.
Which is going to draw more people into it, I'd say.
Yeah.
The animation is better than the previous Peanuts films. It's still not, like, amazing or anything like that.
But it's on par. And this film was, again, directed by Bill Melendez, who's directed the other Peanuts films. And this is the one that's actually received the most mixed reviews at the time that it came out. Most reviewers rated it as either on par with the others or slightly below.
Interesting.
The other Charlie Brown movies, which I wonder, is that necessarily indicative of its quality or more so people getting tired of Peanuts films?
I could see it being that second one, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And most
then-
people aren't going out and watching every single animated film.
Yeah. And then at the box office, this made $3.2 million. I did not see what kind of budget it had, but it was probably a lot cheaper than that. So
Yeah.
it probably did just fine.
Good for it.
Yeah.
Good for it. Either way, next time on Animation Pilgrimage, it's time. We're finally going back to Disney again. And
we had two this year.
We're gonna watch the rest. We're gonna
Don't
watch
give it
the
away.
rescue. No, we're gonna watch The Rescuers. For realsies this time, we're gonna watch it.
See you then.
Free as running water, fresh as morning dew. No matter who's the leader, when the sun sets down, it is gone, Charlie Brown. So race for your life. Take a chance, 'cause there's no